Places, Kalai.
Thanks, Trudy. If done well, live theater can transport audiences directly into the world of the story. And for over a century, Diamond Head Theater has been doing just that. Act 1 of this episode of Home is Here takes us through the history of DHT as it raises the curtain on a new era.
So right now I am sitting in the Fort Ruger Theater. It may be one of the last times I actually get to just sit in the theater and reflect. This space has been the last 45 years of my life in one way or another. And it feels like home, it feels comfortable. And to think that I won't be sitting here anymore has not quite sunk in yet. I can process it, I can say it won't be here, but I don't think until the building comes down that it will truly hit home. The history of what is now Diamond Head Theater is truly amazing. We are the third oldest continuously operating community theater in the United States, but it hasn't always been Diamond Head Theater. Originally, it was called the Footlights, and then in the 1930s, it was changed to Honolulu Community Theater, HCT, which is still what a lot of people refer to it. And then in the 1980s, it was finally changed to Diamond Head Theater. When the Footlights started, it was a group of society ladies who got together to write plays and read plays in each other's homes. It was very social. It was very cucumber sandwiches and tea. And there is no documentation that we've ever been able to find of exactly when they started getting together. But in 1915, they decided to produce a play, a live stage play, which took place at the Opera House, which is now the post office across from Iolani Palace. When you look at the archive pictures of those early productions, I'm truly amazed at the quality and also borderline risque for the time. In 1915, anyone being on stage was considered a little suspect. It was considered very not the thing to do. And yet these ladies presented especially tableaus where people stand still and recreate a picture. If you look at the costumes, they were considered quite racy for their day. So they really were very forward thinking. Things changed in the 1930s, 1934 specifically. The name was changed to Honolulu Community Theater, and they did their first musical, which was Gilbert and Sullivan's Mikado. It started appealing to a larger audience. It was no longer just the very wealthy, the very educated. And the 1940s is really when Honolulu Community Theater came into its own. They worked very, very closely with the USO in presenting productions both for civilians and the military. During the war years, we were actually housed in the Moana Hotel. And that was actually our last home until we moved here into the Fort Ruger Theater in the 1950s. And we have been here ever since, almost 70 years. This was originally constructed as a USO entertainment facility and also as a lecture hall during the war, and also primarily as a movie theater. They did make provisions for live theater. It has an orchestra pit that we have not used in probably 50 or 60 years because it's so far back, it's actually under the stage. And they did include dressing rooms and some small theatrical elements. I know that when they built this theater, they had no idea, A, that it would still be standing this many years later, and also that it would be used for the type of shows that Diamond Head Theatre has become famous for. Big, extravagant musicals. But we have managed to adapt some major musicals into our space with a little creativity, a little ingenuity, and sometimes just some very good luck. You know, some people who started their theater time here as children went on and made very successful careers in the theater. A few of them went on to become quite big stars. Of course, our most famous alumni is Bette Midler, but also Georgia Engel from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and several others. The Fort Ruger Theatre brought forth tremendous memories for people. Associations of my parents had their first date here. It was the first show I ever saw as a child. And when they would come to productions and the lights would be dim and you would look around and you would think, I can't imagine why they would want to tear this down. It's so charming. As I tell people all the time, it was not vintage, it was old. We've done most of the improvements in the front of the house over the years, but if you see the back of the theater, the actual stage area, the wing space, the dressing rooms, it's very obvious that it had to come down. When we initially considered our options, one of them was to gut the Fort Ruger Theatre and update it. It actually was less expensive to build a new theater than to update this one. And also, we would not have been able to include a fly loft. And the addition of the fly loft was really the deciding factor in building a new theater versus renovating the old one. Musicals, in particular, which is what we are known for, have changed greatly since the golden era of the 1950s. Rodgers and Hammerstein and Lerner and Loewe, where the audience was very content to see a 3-hour show. A song would end, the curtain would close, you would sit while the orchestra played a reprise, they would change the set, the curtain would reopen again. That's not how musicals are written anymore. Musicals are written very fast-paced. You're not supposed to see the set changes. They're immediate. They're supposed to be magic. And we are very limited in the old theater with being able to do that. Yes, we did do it, but it was very hard, and it's getting harder with every future production. So by having the fly loft, not only does it enable us to be more creative, it's also a much safer environment than the old theater was. It will have more wing space. It will have an orchestra pit where the orchestra pit is supposed to be instead of on the side of the old theater. There was a lot of thought given to maintaining the old theater or building the new. And we finally came to the conclusion that the new theater would have a longer life and that we would be able to do much better work for the community. The final performance of Anything Goes was incredibly emotional for everyone involved. It was the final performance in the old Fort Ruger Theatre that people had grown up in. They had fallen in love with theater as children. They had either been on stage, or their parents had been on stage, or they had been subscribers for 20, 30 years, volunteers. It basically became a home for a lot of people for many years. So saying goodbye to it meant so much to so many people who wanted to be involved in it. We brought everybody on stage for a toast to say goodbye. Let's toast the Fort Ruger Theatre. And then we had a special finale at the end. that was a little melancholy and sad, and then we brought it back up again with a reprise of Anything Goes, with people tap dancing in the aisles, tap dancing on the sides, and it was a wonderful aloha to a theater that everyone loved. I will miss, I think, most of all the memories of the people who have come through here, some of whom are not with us anymore, but the memories of the people and what we created. Now that, of course, will continue in the new theater, but I think there's something about the ghosts in this theater of people who came long before us and passed the legacy of this theater down to us is something I'm going to miss terribly. Diamond Head Theater is a nonprofit organization. It is a community theater. Our actors, for the most part, are volunteers. They are paid a very small honorarium. We rely very heavily on volunteers in the scene shop, the costume shop, our actors, our ushers, our concession people, volunteers in the box office. No production would take place without the wonderful people that the audience doesn't get to see. The volunteers who work backstage, moving the set pieces, running the spotlights. It truly is an army of people. The actors get the recognition on their bow, but they only get the thank yous that we always try and give them for the donation they do of their time. Most of them are back there and not on stage because that's where they're comfortable. They don't want to be in the spotlight, but they want to be part of theater. They are just as important as the star taking the final bow at the end of the show because their contribution is the same. I had a friend who came to see the show the other night, a professional actress dancer, and she said, I loved watching it because they're there because they want to be, not because of a paycheck. And I think that sums up incredibly well what we do and the love you feel in our productions. People are here because they want to be. They want to show off their talents on stage. They want to be part of a community that is creative and working together to make art. And I think that's true all the way back to 1915. It was people coming together because they wanted to create art for Honolulu. There is something unique about live theater that you cannot experience in any other form. You can watch a show on video, but you don't get that same connection you get to live theater. If a production is good and the performers are good, as an audience member, you should feel like they're doing the show directly for you and your entertainment. I think the legacy of Diamond Head Theater will only continue to grow with the new theater. I'm constantly amazed, especially with young people, because young people are always the future of theater.
5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Stay on the line, Sophie, back up and 1, 2, stay on the line, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1.
How much more interest and how well trained children are now compared to when I was growing up in theater arts. They take classes, they take master classes, they observe theater, they go to theater, and they will be leading the new theater. The new theater is for them. It's for them to continue to grow into an even bigger and better theatrical outlet. But I think those that are making the crossover into the theater will always respect what they learned in the old theater when it was difficult, when there were challenges, when it was hard to get on stage, when sometimes if a set was in the wrong place in the wings, you couldn't get out of the dressing room. I think they learned so much in the old theater that they're going to appreciate the new theater even more and be able to create bigger and better than we do now.